Good afternoon. I'm glad to be joined by our bill sponsors today and a number of leading voices on the issue of lawsuit abuse. And today is the first step forward in bringing balance to an area that Florida lags among the states. We lead the nation in so many different areas, and we're almost dead last when it comes to our litigation climate. I'm pleased to be joined today by Chair Tommy Gregory and Representative Tom Fabricio, and also by business leaders including American Tort Reform Association, Tiger Joyce, Associated Industries of Florida, Brewster Beavis, Florida Chamber of Commerce, Mark Wilson, Florida Justice Reform Institute, William Large, Florida Retail Federation, Scott Shalley, Florida Trucking Association, Alex Miller, James Madison Institute, Sal Nuzzo, National Federation of Independent Business, Bill Hurley, and finally from Uber, Giovanni Castro. So I'll ask each of them to come up in turn.
Thank you, Speaker Renner. Thank you for trusting us to run this good bill and try to bring balance to Florida's civil justice system. You know, as I just said in debate in the committee, Floridians know. It's common sense to them. They can tell by the number of insurance companies going bankrupt and fleeing the state, and they can tell by their insurance premiums that there's something amiss in the legal climate here. There's something off in the civil remedy and the pursuit of damages. And the civil justice system really is operating like a casino. All you need is an attorney. Once you get in there, you're going to win. You can call it a casino, you can call it an ATM. They've got the PIN number. And they have the PIN number because we have one-way fees, because we have inflated fee multipliers, because we have excessive and inflated damages. This bill is designed to address those problems, bring the civil justice system back into equilibrium, and that's going to save all Floridians, all of our constituents, money, so they can stop paying that Florida tort tax, the insurance premium or surcharge that's costing Floridians probably $100 a week for your typical Florida family. So this bill is long overdue, and I'm proud to run it and proud to take the questions and all the meetings that's driven. And you know what? We have a lot of attorneys. We're not speaking ill of attorneys. We've got a lot of attorneys inside and outside the chamber working in it, working on this bill and working on those issues, and we all believe the goal is the same for us, balance.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Representative Gregory. My name is Tom Fabricio, and it's really an honor to be able to work on this bill. This bill continues the work that we had done in the special session with regard to remediating the issues that Florida is facing with the insurance crisis in the state of Florida, to be able to make sure that we have balanced insurance premiums and balanced an insurance market in Florida so that all consumers can have adequate coverage at an adequate rate. Ahora en español un poquito. Mi nombre es Tom Fabricio, yo soy un representante de Miami-Dade County aquí en la legislatura. Este proyecto de ley es extremadamente importante y es una continuación de lo que empezamos a hacer el año pasado con la sesión especial con los seguros de propiedad. Esto es para balancear el mercado, para asegurar que los residentes del estado de la Florida van a tener primas que son más balanceadas y más correctas, y para que los negociantes puedan tener negocios, pero es importante establecer que los reclamos van a estar pagos también. Muchísimas gracias.
All right, thank you, Speaker and representatives. I'm Mark Wilson. I serve as the president of Florida's Chamber of Commerce, and I want to thank all my partners that are here statewide today. I'll be the first to tell you on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, Florida has a lot of things going right for it, but we also have the 5th worst legal climate in the United States, and that's making everything more expensive. As a matter of fact, we have more billboards in Florida telling you to sue someone than any country on the planet, let alone any other state. And the billboard trial lawyers that are on those billboards are making your food more expensive, your gas more expensive, and your insurance costs more. And that's why the Florida Chamber is here to support our good partners for common sense, game-changing relief. Thank you.
My name is Alex Miller, and I'm President and CEO of the Florida Trucking Association. We represent hundreds of trucking companies in the state, big and small. Those billboards you see all over the state present an image of the industry, nameless, faceless, with limitless money. But trucking has a face. There are more than 480,000 professional truck drivers in the state, men and women who dedicate their lives to deliver the goods you need. The trucking industry and drivers behind the wheel are committed to safety and making sure everyone gets home. But sometimes the unthinkable does happen. And when it does, we make things right and make people whole. But verdicts are out of control. Inflated damages are not reflective of what the case entails. It has to stop. We deliver everything you eat, wear, and touch. Inflated medical damages and outlandish settlements, or just being 1% at fault, directly affects all Floridians. The cost of this gets added to everything you buy. It slows down our economy and puts small companies out of business. This legislation balances out the system to make it more fair for everyone. I've had second, third, and either fourth generation trucking leaders tell me this would be the most significant change since deregulation. A trucker's memory is as strong as the road is long, and we thank Speaker Renner, Chair Gregory, and Rep. Fabricio for this good bill.
Thank you. I'm Bill Hurley. I'm Executive Director of the National Federation of Independent Business. We represent Florida's small independent business owners. I want to thank Speaker Renner. I want to thank Chairman Robinson. I want to thank sponsors, Representative Tommy Gregory and Representative Fabricio. Small business owners are grateful. I want to point out just one small thing I witnessed today in the long hours of testimony. There were many people that wanted to invoke the name of small business. Somehow everyone understands that we're doing this for small business owners of Florida. But there were those that suggested that small business owners don't know what's good for themselves, and that this bill is actually going to be bad for small business. Well, I will tell you, I've represented small business owners for over 30 years. I know tens of thousands of them. I am confident that small business owners very much want this legislation and very much appreciate the legislative leadership from the legislature on into the executive level in getting this legislation moving. Thank you, Speaker Renner.
Good afternoon. Giovanni Castro with Uber Technologies. Thank you, Speaker Renner and the bill sponsors for having us here today. Since Uber maintains commercial auto insurance on behalf of drivers operating on the Uber app, we serve as the largest consumer of auto insurance in the state of Florida and likely in the United States. In the state of Florida, one can't take an Uber in Miami, Tampa, or Orlando without seeing billboards incentivizing users to explore legal action against our company. Uber has a very unique perspective on this issue because we operate across the country and can compare costs associated with lawsuit abuse in Florida and the rest of the country. Lawsuit abuse is clearly worse in Florida than other states and results in higher prices for Florida consumers. We applaud the leadership of the bill sponsors and Speaker Renner for working to create an environment where Floridians will no longer shoulder the hidden costs of lawsuit abuse. Uber Technologies supports the passage of this legislation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Showie. I'm President and CEO of the Florida Retail Federation. I want to thank the Speaker and the representatives for their leadership on this issue. You know, we do talk a lot about business, and let me tell you where I am with regard to business. We have 300,000 retail establishments in this state. Many of them are very small. Over 4 million Floridians are employed in the retail industry. The way that they stay employed is to have viable, healthy businesses, and we need a healthy legal climate to have that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Brewster Beavis. I'm the President and CEO of Associated Industries of Florida. And I've done many of these over my career, and I can tell you that not yet have I done one on a bill that is so transformative of what passed out of committee today. You know, the other side will say this is about big insurance, but make no mistake about it. This bill is about protecting Florida's business community and the consumers who pay a tort tax every single day. Florida's current tort climate negatively impacts every industry in every corner of the state and raises costs for both businesses and consumers. Far too long, our state's job creators have suffered under the ever-increasing onslaught of frivolous lawsuits and sue-to-settle claims. Many times, these are not about righting a wrong. They're about enriching unscrupulous plaintiffs' attorneys who simply game the system, and to the detriment of the hardworking men and women of Florida. Under the leadership of Chairman Gregory and Representative Fabricio, under the leadership of Governor DeSantis and under the unwavering leadership and commitment of Speaker Renner and President Pasadomo, that suffering ends. From the Florida business community and the consumers of our state, thank you for leveling the playing field.
Good afternoon. My name is Tiger Joyce. I'm president of the American Tort Reform Association in Washington, D.C. I want to thank Speaker Renner for his leadership and for inviting me to be here with you today. And I certainly want to thank also Representatives Gregory and Fabricio for their excellent leadership and the wonderful bill that they've introduced that was reported out today. I'm delighted to be here to express the support of the American Tort Reform Association for House Bill 837. We believe this is historic legislation that addresses some of the worst abuses of our civil justice system, most notably by establishing greater transparency regarding the actual costs of medical care for juries when they're figuring out how much injured parties should receive as compensation, as well as reforming the questionable practices around letters of protection. The leadership in Florida from the governor, the speaker, the Senate President Pasadomo have made a commitment on this issue. We really commend them. Florida has come a long way from our standpoint in the last 5 years. 5 years ago, my organization rated Florida as the worst litigation jurisdiction in the country. But improvements in the decision-making of your Florida Supreme Court in recent years, particularly on issues such as expert evidence, have demonstrated a commitment to a balanced approach to civil litigation, and we applaud that. But this process is going to continue, we hope, with the enactment of this legislation to address some problems that are completely in the province of the legislature to address. I mentioned the transparency issue and the other matters that were under discussion today. We applaud the leaders here today, and we look forward to fully acknowledging Florida as a leader in litigation reform around the country with the enactment of this legislation. As some of the previous speakers indicated, lawsuit abuse costs us all. Analyses vary, but some that we've seen recently indicate for a family of 4, the excesses of civil litigation cost a family of nearly $4,500 in a given year. In a time of great inflation, we should be addressing those matters, but more importantly, as a matter of basic fairness and having a balanced system. So we commend the leaders that are here today, encourage the enactment of this important legislation, and look forward to heralding Florida as the leader on civil litigation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Sal Nuzzo. I'm Senior Vice President at the James Madison Institute in Tallahassee. As Mark had mentioned, Florida gets so many things right when it comes to policy. We have so much to be proud of in our legislative leaders, our cabinet, our governor. From the tax climate to a light regulatory footprint, Florida gets so much kind of correct. And compared to Washington, D.C., it really just doesn't get much better. All of this makes our litigation environment so much more of an anomaly. The abuse of our civil litigation system harms every single Floridian. It clogs up our court system, reducing access to those who desperately need it. It siphons off thousands of dollars to every Floridian each year, and it also hinders our growth, especially among our small businesses who are paying the freight for out-of-control lawsuits by a few bad actors. Make no mistake, it does not have to be this way. It's not the norm. It's not the norm in other states. And as others have mentioned, our litigation rules make Florida the hotbed for out-of-control lawsuits. So we're thankful for the legislature and our governor for what they did last year in the special session addressing property insurance reform. It's now time to address those issues within the litigation rules causing out-of-control lawsuit abuse. This is, as our friends have mentioned, a monumental opportunity for Florida. Lawmakers can, in fact, be transformational, and Representatives Gregory and Fabricio are to be commended for that. It's our hope that their colleagues in the legislature will come along in this session and send a reasonable, meaningful, and practical reform to Governor DeSantis and enact HB 837. So thank you so much to Speaker Renner for your great leadership in this fight. JMI has your back in this, and we are fully supportive of this effort. Thank you.
Questions? Well, I think we can look at it backwards, and that is we have by far the highest property insurance in the country. Many insurers will not touch Florida until the reforms we just passed, and so this is really kind of an extension of what we did in the special session on property. We also have, depending on who you ask, the number 1, 2, or 3 highest auto insurance premiums in the country. And so there's no doubt that by trying to reach balance on our litigation climate, we will allow for affordability to be brought to all Floridians, everybody in the entire state. And everybody's struggling with that. And as you heard from the truckers, they're delivering our food, they're delivering our gas. And when they see, and I spoke to one of the insurers, over double-digit increases year after year for the last 10 years. Individuals that are a single man in a single truck are getting put out of business, or 3 trucks or 4 trucks. All the big corporations with an army of lawyers, they can maintain and fight back against some of those lawsuits, but really our small businesses where most of our Floridians work are one threatening lawsuit away from going out of business. Now, having said that, we want to make sure that people that have legitimate claims can bring those claims, and I'm absolutely confident that what we do today is we eliminate the heads I win, tails you lose aspect of our litigation climate. But when you have a good claim and somebody's done something negligent, you will recover long after this bill is passed, and we want to make sure we're clear that we're trying to hit the middle of the fairway. We are beginning this bill today. There's going to be more give and take and more compromise to be had before this bill gets to the end. I appreciate the comments on both sides, both for and against the bill. We get better as a result of hearing from people, and we'll make sure that we don't do anything to harm the person that has a claim, that they don't get $1 less than what they deserve at the end of the trial. But what we don't want is we don't want the many, many thousands of cases that are really kind of garbage litigation that drive up the cost of everybody in this room and everybody that's listening.
Can I ask you about the consistency of the House on, you're also advancing defamation lawsuits that are making it easier to sue media organizations, and also legislation that would make it easier to sue cities and county governments. Why are you doing that, yet at the same time you are limiting what seems to be the rights of consumers to sue their insurers?
Yeah, and we may do that in data privacy as well, too, because lawyers are an important check and balance on the system. And so take opioid litigation. Here's a situation where the opioid manufacturers knew at some point that they were addicting people. Those people need to get hammered, and they did. And so the lawyers did a great work in that case, and we're going to get money as a result of that we can put towards substance abuse facilities and helping people to wean them off of that horrible situation that many, many Americans are suffering right now. So this is not about all litigation is bad. All bad litigation is bad, but there's plenty of good litigation, and we want to make sure that those cases continue to move forward and people get compensated fairly. On the defamation front, I think the governor's right. It's time to test that law. The New York Times v. Sullivan. And if a reporter is hiding behind an anonymous source that may not be a real person, may not be a real source, and putting out what we've come to know as fake news, then there needs to be some liability for that. And so that's I don't think that's inconsistent at all.
Speaker Renner, forgive me for changing the topic, but a lone gunman killed 3 in Orlando this week, including a 9-year-old. The gunman is 19, but he had more than a dozen arrests as a juvenile. The sheriff in Orange County says he's asking Tallahassee to make changes to juvenile law. The state attorney is asking Tallahassee to make changes to juvenile law. Is there anything that you can deliver this session to help local 400 down there?
Well, I have good news for all those people, yes, and we're working on that as we speak. I've made very clear that I see a big distinction between law-abiding men and women that have a right to self-defense of themselves and others, and those who are consistently using guns in crimes. And we're going to go after those guys, and so you will see in the coming weeks bills introduced to get tougher on violent people that use guns in the commission of crimes. Along with that, we have to also look at some of these prosecutors who are refusing to do their main job, which is to prosecute bad people. And it doesn't make our community safe to follow some George Soros mindset about prosecution and not understand that there's people out there that would harm us and harm the vulnerable. And we need to make sure that those people are sent to jail or to prison promptly. And so we will have a number of pieces of legislation, including bail reform. We've got a judge in Broward County who says a third-degree felony, you come in and you get booked and you walk right out. how is that going to make our communities more safe? And so, yes, we will have legislation this year to further strengthen the penalties, also to give our law enforcement more technology, whether that's more rapid forensic assessment of gun crimes, also DNA match, whether it's a rape or some other serious crime against children or women. We're going to get very serious when it comes to law and order and public safety this year.
Speaker, we just saw Rep. Beltran vote against this bill, saying that reforms like these in the past really haven't made the changes that he would like to see or others would like to see. What makes you confident that these changes will do that?
Well, I think we aim at a place where many other states are around the country who have lower cost. And I mentioned affordability. I mentioned the threat to small businesses. So I'm confident because other states that have done that have lower prices than we do, frankly. But here's the other thing is this is one session, is one committee in one session. And next year, if we feel like we've gone too far in a particular direction, we'll go back the other way. I mean, Senator Pasadomo has been real clear on the property insurance front, and I would echo that is if insurers don't do right by their insureds, then, we're coming for them too. And so we want to make sure that the gamesmanship on both sides is taken out of the system. Insurers play games, some of the plaintiffs and litigants sometimes play games. We want to get that out. We want to allow more time in the court system for people who have real serious claims, real serious injuries with somebody who did wrong by them, and make sure that people that are really at fault are held to account for that. What we don't want is to have the churn that generates a lot of excess costs that are driven along and passed along, rather, to every single Floridian. And so I believe by mirroring where many other states are, we will also mirror where their cost structure is while still allowing good claims to move forward.
I want to ask you about the school choice bill. Do you have any thoughts on the provisions that the Senate added in terms of teacher certification?
Yeah, I think we need to be more realistic about teacher certification. We have a shortage. If a teacher comes in, let's say somebody comes in, they've done 20 years they're a pipe fitter or something like that. They're an expert in their field, or a plumber, electrician, what have you, and they're going to come in and teach. Why should they have to go through this onerous, process of learning biology and math and everything else to teach in something that they're an expert in already? So we want to make sure that we're getting men and women who have a passion for conveying knowledge to younger people to have that opportunity without unreasonably burdening them with a lot of requirements that don't necessarily go to the question of, do they know the subject and are they good teachers? And I think those are the two things we all want. You want somebody who knows the top subject matter and is going to teach well. And if they do that, then they ought to get that certification and that's it. And so the bill, since you asked the question, I'll answer another part of the bill you didn't ask about, but it's really a fantastic transformational change for every Floridian. Most of the kids who are on our school choice programs right now are making $40,000 or less. Many of them come from minority or disadvantaged communities. This is a chance to give kids who don't have a lot of money the same chance that a rich family has to get a quality education. And I believe to my core in that every single man and boy and girl in this country, but in this state, will, as a result of this bill, have the opportunity to start life at the same place as a family that has a lot of advantages. And by creating this ESA, we give them a lot of customization, a lot of opportunities. So if your kid's behind in reading, they can get a tutor. If they're behind in math, you can have an online course that helps them in math. And we also take care of our unique abilities community. If your child is autistic, if they have dyslexia or Down syndrome, we're going to make sure that you have the additional resources to get what your child needs to get a quality education. Thank you guys very much.